Mr. Jason Spang, Superintendent of Mt Pulaski Schools. Mr. Spang, good to see you, sir. How are you?
Good morning, Seth. I'm doing well. It's good to see you again. I know we had a kind of unexpected 1 month hiatus last month, and we had some scheduling conflicts, but
That's all right.
excited to get back and meet with you today and talk about what's been going on in Pulaski School District.
Sure. Well, it's coming up on Christmas break. What's the holiday schedule for your kids over there?
So this is our last week. We'll have an early dismissal on Friday, and then we don't come back until January. On the 6th, we'll have an in-service day on the 6th, and then have some professional development, those kinds of things. But that's kind of what it looks like. We've done some winter benchmark testing here to close out first semester, and we've done some semester exams for the junior high and the high school, and we're culminating first semester, and hope to have those grades posted for the kids and the parents to start the new year. But overall, it's been a great year so far. Our elementary school received exemplary status for the second year in a row in the state of Illinois. So, top 10%, academically. And so we've praised them. Mrs. Laura and the elementary through junior high principals done an excellent job. And our high school principal drastically improved. They were commendable, which is still great, but they drastically improved their numbers and was literally decimal points shy of attaining exemplary status at the high school. So That's certainly one of their goals. But all in all, we're improving in all facets in Pulaski schools.
We didn't really prep to talk about this, but school report card data has come out for Mt Pulaski. It sounds like things are going well on that front.
They are. We've improved our test scores across the board. We've improved culture and climate across the board. One measuring tool they use for culture and climate is the Illinois 5 Essential Survey. So we've knocked those out of the park, and that's a direct reflection of leadership from the top down, as far as our school board, to myself, to our administrators, to our teachers, to our students, to their families. And so we really take a lot of pride in that.
Yeah. School report card, Mr. Spang, tell us a little bit about what goes into all of that data. What does it encompass? What is weighted? What are some of the factors and things that folks may find in that if they choose to look it up?
Yeah, there's a lot of metrics that go into it. And so, student mobility, which kids are coming in and out of your district, SES status, which is social economic status, which is essentially low income, how that's measured. Percentage of IEP students versus, percentage of general population students, enrollment, test scores as far as, on this report card, it would have been SAT data, but obviously moving forward in the state of Illinois, that's going to be ACT data and what that looks like. Illinois assessment of readiness for elementary schools. All of those things, your revenue that comes into the district, how much you spend per pupil, all of those metrics and factors are calculated into a fairly complex formula to rate schools in the state. And so they used all of those metrics to appropriate funding, what's called EBF, evidence-based formula. And every school district in the state of Illinois has a certain tier. We're tier 4 in Mt Pulaski, which means we receive considerably less than most other schools of similar size and scope to us. But as we've discussed before, we're pretty fortunate we have wind farm revenue coming in to help take care of a lot of expenses on a daily basis.
Yeah, for sure. So when it comes to some of the things that were in this report card, you mentioned the improvements and those sorts of things. Any other areas of the report card you were pleased with this year?
All areas. Our freshmen on track to graduate went up. Our chronically truant students numbers went down. Mm-hmm. All of those things drive our decisions we make on a daily basis. Mental health is a big factor for kids' well-being in the state of Illinois, and we were able to hire a student support coordinator about a month and a half ago, who has done an absolutely fantastic job. She travels back and forth between the high school and the grade school, and counsels kids, talks to kids. We have an early warning system where we consider data as far as referrals, grades, the amount of activities they're involved in, missing assignments, map data, an abundance of things. And we calculate those across the board to submit Z-scores for us. And those Z-scores we use to prioritize interventions for those kids, whether they're behavioral or academic or whatever the case may be. So we've used that specific tool really to raise our freshmen on track to graduate numbers, to raise just numbers across the board as far as, kids that have experienced trauma.
Yeah. And so you talked about the truancy piece, the chronic absenteeism piece. I know you're kind of walking into the situation as it's happening, or not as it's happening, but it had happened, and you're trying to improve on it as you come into the job. Tell me a little bit about that challenge in Mt Pulaski schools. What do you know about it, and how have you been able to address it?
It's quite a bit different, Seth. Back when you and I were in high school, the biggest deterrent for that was being punished. If you're not going to be at school, then, you're going to suffer consequences. And certainly that's a part of it. But a lot of schools have really converted to, incentivizing things. And that really rings true with a lot of kids in today's age and families and upbringing their kids. When you incentivize kids coming to school, you incentivize things like perfect attendance. You incentivize things like, trying your best on tests. You incentivize things like performing well. Kids want to come to school when you're creating a culture and climate where kids want to come to school because it's fun, and then they can also learn. That's how you improve those numbers. And so we've been innovative. We've been creative across the board. And that's not just Mt Pulaski, inventing things and inventing ideas. The best leaders in education will seek out other school districts and other leaders who are doing great things and bring those ideas back to our school district and find ways to incorporate those within our community.
Was chronic absenteeism a big issue in Mt Pulaski before you got there?
It wasn't big, I would say. It was considerable. We knew we needed to address it like most schools. But biggest part of leadership is being a good listener. A lot of leaders hear things, but some leaders don't necessarily listen. And so you've got to hear, you've got to listen, and then you've got to take that data. We tried making data-driven decisions. I use an acronym called DRIP, which is data rich and information poor. So if we're not making the best use of our data and putting forth interventions to, in the case of chronic absenteeism, enticing our kids to come to school by providing a fantastic academic, but also social enriching environment, then we're not doing our job. And so we've thought outside the box, and we've brought some awesome ideas, and we've certainly improve those numbers.
That's one thing I've heard a lot of the last month or so is, as you combat chronic absenteeism, part of the appeal is to coming to school. And you talked about, when you and I were in school, Mr. Spang, you had the truancy officer after you. You probably had the school principal or the dean or whoever, and you had to face a lot of people in that process. Now you want to give kids a reason to come to school, and part of that is those programs, the things that they look forward to. If you can get a kid involved in something, that it's not necessarily an accountability thing where they have to be there for that. They look forward to being there for that. Speak to that a little more, if you don't mind.
Absolutely, and to that point, we've incorporated a lot of new activities and a lot of new opportunities for our kids. A couple things. Moving forward into next year, we're going to start a cross-country program here. That's obviously a direct result of, the Veterans Park renovation on the north end of town. We're going to get about a $3 million facility with an 8-lane all-weather track. Now, cross-country kids don't compete on a track, but they certainly can use the track to, get through a lot of practices. They can use the park up there. Another thing that we've brought along is the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, FCA. That's an excellent extracurricular club that really highlights what kids are doing and then gives kids an opportunity to be in a student-led but adult overseen program that allows kids, some of our students of faith to be able to tap into that, be passionate about it, and drive improvement within their own lifestyle. And so those are just a couple things that we've offered that's new here in Pulaski.
Stellar stuff. Very good. Well, Mr. Spang, anything on school report card? As I guess I'll ask this, as you break things down, what do you look at going into the next year or two that you say, hey, we got to get better at these things? What's in there that you're looking at improving on?
Yeah, so obviously the December board meeting is, the big task for that month is the tax levy. And so that's what we had our board meeting last night. We had our truth and taxation hearing. Again, not because we're raising taxes, because we're not. I mean, that's the big, huge red flag. But just to, briefly educate, it's an apples to oranges comparison. What you levy for, or in other words, your ask, those are the apples, and what you get, the extension, those are the oranges. So you can ask for the moon, and that doesn't mean you're going to get that. And so the truth and taxation hearing essentially is triggered by, if you're asking 5% or more than what you did the previous year, then by law you have to have a truth and taxation hearing, and then you have to obviously post that in a local newspaper and on your website. So we did that. We didn't have anyone show up last night, just because our community is used to the way we run a tax levy, which is ballooning the levy each year. And so we ballooned it again this year by 20%. We do that just in case there's any extra EAV out there, new EAV that we're unaware of. So we try to capture that, because if you don't, there's no brownie points for trying to guess exactly what your levy is going to be. So if we don't capture it, then we lose that money forever, for our students, for our kids, for our community. So we've got several projects on the horizon. Obviously, we're going to finish the park in the spring. We've got a bus barn renovation that's coming up, because our bus barn building needs some very much needed improvements.
Sure.
And then, looking down the line, we put out renderings during the Bill Rucks tournament in November, which is our Holiday Boys basketball tournament, for a proposed $10 million addition to the grade school.
Wow.
An addition of 9 new classrooms, a gymnasium, and those kinds of things. And we're pretty lucky enough to be able to do those things without asking to pass a referendum in the community, and while still lowering the tax rate.
Wow.
Or at least maintaining it. So
that's amazing stuff. Nice. Well, I'll tell you what, Mr. Spang, with that, let's break and dive more into those things on the other side of a break, if that's okay. Where do folks go to learn about all things Mount Pulaski schools?
Obviously on our website, and we're converting that. It's now mp23schools.com. That'll take you to our website. The old address was mtpulaski.k12.il.us. It was kind of a tongue twister. So now we're at mp23schools.com, so we can talk about that when we come back.
We got a lot to get to with Mr. Jason Spang, Superintendent of Mount Pulaski Schools, my guest on the Zoom today. More to come with him on the morning show.
Exclusive benefits. Let's check the markets now on the RFD Radio Network. I'm Jim Taylor. Corn lower, beans higher, wheat trading lower. March corn down half a penny, 4.36 3/4. May corn down 3/4, 4.43. July corn 4.46 1/4, down a penny. January beans up 7, 9.58 3/4. March beans up 5 3/4, 9.59. May beans 9.67 1/4, up 5 3/4. March wheat down 8, 5.33 1/4. May wheat 5.43 3/4, down 8. January bean meal up 2.20, 281.70. January bean oil 39.69, up 14 cents. Livestock market, January feeders down $2, 2.55 even. December live cattle down 90 cents, 190.40. February lean hogs up 32 cents, 84.02. Energy market, January crude oil up a dime, 70.68. And I'm Jim Taylor on the RFD Radio Network.
Chip Flory here, the host of AgriTalk, the nation's longest-running agriculture talk show. I'm here to remind our listeners on Central Illinois' agriculture station, WHOW, that you can hear our show weekday mornings from 10 to 11 on WHOW's many platforms. On the Big 1520 across Central Illinois, 92.3 FM in DeWitt County, and now on 106.5 FM in Logan County, and on the WHOW app. AgriTalk on WHOW.
Allergy season is here, and our Warner Hospital and Health Services walk-in clinic inside our family medicine is here to help. No appointment, no problem. Find out more by clicking our icon at DeWittDailyNews.com.
Ramie Miller from Run Deep Coaching. Take your power back. I do holistic personal and business coaching. My service is virtual, so we can visit no matter where you are. Find out more by clicking my icon at DeWittDailyNews.com. That's DeWittDailyNews.com.
Your friend in Central Illinois, WHOW.
Once again, a good morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. Mr. Jason Spang, superintendent of Mt Pulaski Schools, is my guest on the Zoom today. And Mr. Spang, you left us with a big bit of news there in Mt Pulaski, a $10 million elementary school addition. Wow, this is exciting stuff in Mt Pulaski.
Well, it's in the very early stages, and we still have some decisions to make. But obviously, one consideration is the site here at the grade school. We need the space for our junior high classrooms, but then we would also, in this model, we would be able to utilize the remainder of the space in this building, but then just add on a new gym, add on 9 new classrooms, add on district offices. And so
does that building share space with, you said junior high, it shares space with junior high? Is that the way it works?
So it's a junior high addition. Right now, our elementary school pre-K through 8 is in this building here. We have 2 buildings in campus, the 9 through 12 building at the high school, and then our pre-K through 8 building here. So it would be an addition on the north side of this property of 9 classrooms plus a gymnasium. And so we're very much in the infancy stages of those conversations, but we would potentially could break ground in the summer of 27. And it would be probably a 2-year long project. But the great news is that we don't have to relocate. We can still maintain operations here, put that construction project in place, and then have enough revenue by the time that's done in 29 to have it paid for.
That tells me 2 things. One, your student body potentially is growing. Also, you're in a pretty sound place financially.
Historically, we've maintained our enrollment. Throughout the last probably 10 years. But we are sitting down in January for a new strategic plan. We're bringing in Ralph Grimm from IASA, and he's going to lead us through that process for the next 3 to 5 years. But that is definitely one focal point, is recruitment into our community. So we've seen, I would say, small incremental amounts of growth and a little bit of moving into our community. But that's one thing we really want to target. We feel like we offer a lot to students and families that want to move into a community where there's a small school setting, very low student to teacher ratio, where their students and their kids can receive more individualized instruction. And so we think that's a direct result of why we've been testing so well in the district, why we're rated exemplary. And, we want to expand. That's why we're bringing new facilities and improved facilities to the community. We're not going to receive all this wind farm revenue forever, but, this building is 50 years old. So we need to make improvements. We need to, add on and eventually phase other parts of the building out.
Why not wait until the strategic plan is in place to put those plans out? I'm just inquiring. I'm not saying you should have or questioning why you did it. I'm just kind of curious.
Sure. Yeah, so the current strategic plan does factor into these plans that have been discussed.
Okay.
So it's in the current strategic plan, but again, that's going to phase out this January. So it's almost kind of be a rollover from this strategic plan to the next.
Okay, gotcha. Very good. So strategic planning on the horizon. Perhaps next month you and I can connect and talk about what's going on there and that process and what it'll look like and all of those things. In the meantime, Mr. Spang, you did mention a new website for Mt Pulaski Schools and shortening up the URL, making it a little easier. What's going on?
Yeah, so the website's the same, but it is a new URL. The old name was mtpulaski.k12.il.us. And that's a tongue twister to type in if you're going to email myself or one of our staff members, let alone visit the website. So we've converted it, and now it's just mp23schools.com. And we thought that rolled very well into a new athletic website we have too, which is mp23athletics.com. So those two titles, it's the same look for the educational website. But it's a pretty flashy new look for our athletics. So that's what they use now. They don't use any third-party team apps anymore. All of our communication is done through that. And now parents can download those apps from the App Store. It's called MP Toppers. And a lot of our families and communities have done that. And they get quarterly updates on basketball games. They get point-to-point directions if it's an away game, how to get there. It's pretty flashy, and we've entered into some sponsorship contracts as well with some outside vendors to help promote and give our students a better experience.
This is pretty sharp, Mr. Spang. This is good stuff here.
Well, it takes a village, as you know, Seth. I mean, any great school districts out there. I say this with our students and staff all the time, that everybody's role is different, but everybody's value is the same, and that's something we live by here. And so it doesn't matter who gets the credit, but we all work for the same common good to provide the best product for our students, and that's the way we're going to roll. So,
I wonder, will enhancing athletic opportunities be part of the strategic plan?
absolutely, yep, all the way around. And so obviously we're going to have several goals, but obviously you're a student athlete for a reason. Student comes first, but those students who are getting the job done in the classroom, we want to provide them more opportunities. More. We're a firm believer of educating the whole child, and that's obviously academically, but that's social emotionally, that's extracurricularly. So it's all of our kids are going pro in one thing, and that's life. And it's up to us to use those extracurricular opportunities to use that as a segue to teach kids about life. And that's what our goal is here, day in and day out.
Those websites one more time, Mr. Spang.
Yeah, it's www.mp23schools.com. And then it's also www.mp23athletics.com.
Good stuff. Mr. Spang, always good to have you on the program, sir. We'll catch you in January. It's always good to have you. Mr. Jason Spang, Superintendent of Mt Pulaski Schools, our guest on the Zoom call today. The morning show streams to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. Of course, we stream live online all the time at DeWittDailyNews.com. Network news comes your way now.